Hey guys, today I want to show you how the coronavirus is a ritual to Saturn and the Sun, and I'm also going to show you a little bit of history, the history of the mythology of Saturn, and how it relates to other events and rituals in the past, and how it relates to the coronavirus. And I'm going to show you also how the origin of this is also from Revelation. And Saturn is coded to Revelation 8:11, the Wormwood Star. Also to Revelation 9:11, Apollyon Nabadan. So I'm just going to go through here real quick. Try to keep this a lot shorter than my last video. Saturn was also known as the Black Sun. And during the golden age of Saturn, this was a time of bliss and plenty. The mythic golden age of mankind existed during a time of Saturn's reign as the Earth's fixed celestial polar sun. So in a past age, Saturn was the fixed celestial pole which the heavens rotated around, and it was Saturn was the sun. The black sun, it gave off a dim purple light. And during the golden age of Saturn, the configuration of the celestial pole was that Mars, Venus, and then Saturn was at the top of the celestial pole. And lately I've been talking a lot about Revelation, and the puzzle of Revelation kind of hinges on the planets Saturn, Venus, and Mars. In the last video I just talked about the Mars and Saturn conjunction in relation to World War, and we have a coming Mars-Saturn conjunction on 3/31. But during the golden age of Saturn, Saturn was a celestial pole, the fixed sun in the sky. So today, the equivalent to the black sun, the symbolic equivalent to the black sun, is the total solar eclipse. And a total solar eclipse is where the sun's corona becomes the most visible. And of course, we're going to be talking about how this connects to the coronavirus. Corona means crown. And the crown or corona of the sun is the aura of plasma that surrounds the sun. And I have the Greek and the Hebrew words for crown here. And I'll show you here the first connection to the 8:11. There are three components of the corona. The K corona, the sunlight scattering off free electrons. The F corona, sunlight bouncing off dust particles. And the E corona, spectral emission lines produced by ions. So those three components of the corona are the K, the F, and the E corona. I'll show you the first 8:11 here. KFE sums to 22, but what we have here is the 1165. And our base 10, base 12 calculator, 1165, and base 10 is 811 and base 12. And remember, the reason I use the base 12 is because the Egyptians used the base 12 number system. And a lot of this mythology is based on ancient cultures such as the Egyptians. But this 811 is associated with the 1165. And I'll show you some more 811 and Saturn Sun connections here as we go. So corona means crown, and in the Hebrew, I have the Hebrew word for crown here, and it sums to 90. And the Greek word for crown sums to 1048. And I'll show you where I got that spelling. You have to take the spelling here from the Wikipedia page here. The ancient Greek, they used this spelling of corona or crown for the Greek version here. If you type it into a translator, it's not quite exactly right, so I'm using this version right from the corona Wikipedia page. It's our 1048, and I'll come back to why I'm showing these two here, these two together. So we're going to get more into how the Saturn, Sun, and Time are associated with revelation here with the crown. In English ordinal, crown sums to 73. And I've showed this before, but there's 404 verses in Revelation. And 404 plus 73 equals 477. And 477 minutes is 33.13% of a day. Remember, our origin of the 3313 is from the great earthquake in Revelation 9:11. The 33 and 13 verses around Revelation 8:11, the falling wormwood star. But I'll show you real quick the 3313. So 477 minutes is 33.13% of a day. Just want to show you that quick just to document it again. Okay, and I've been showing kind of a German theme going along with several of my videos here as well, but I want to show you the Sun and Saturn symbolism here with Germany. The Germany, Nazi Germany, the symbol of the Nazi SS used the double lightning bolts, and these were the double Sig rune, and the Sig was the victory. And you can see here one of the reasons that they use the Sig rune is that Sig Heil means hail the sun, and they put their arm out. The gesture of the Nazis was to put their arm out, and the arm out was to symbolize blocking out the light of the sun. Also, the wheel of the sun, this is also known as the wheel of the sun right here, this symbol. This is the black sun symbol. The symbol of the black sun, kind of a reference to Saturn, can also be a reference to an eclipse, solar eclipse. But recently we just had the artist Shakira perform at the Super Bowl. And it was Super Bowl 54. Sun in English ordinal sums to 54. But in 2018, the symbol of the black sun here, appeared on merchandise for Colombian pop singers Shakira's El Dorado World Tour. So Shakira used the black sun symbol on her El Dorado World Tour. Kind of interesting that she was in Super Bowl 54. Sun sums to 54. Also, in a past video, I showed you guys that the Tarantula Nebula is located in the Dorado constellation. And we're going to come back and I'm doing a whole nother video about the Tarantula Nebula and the spider symbolism. More of that. There's a lot more of that to go along with it. But just a real quick lesson on the origin of the SS and the Sig Heil and how it's related to the Sun, and the black sun, which is Saturn. And 55 resembles the SS, and the SS is the 1919. S is the 19th letter, so we have 1919 with the SS. And I'll show you why that's relevant here for today's events in a minute here. The planet Saturn was also designated as Shamash, or sun, by the Assyrians, the Babylonians, the Akkadians. And if we take the Hebrew for sun, well, let me show you this first. Saturn, if we take the Hebrew for Saturn, Saturn sums to 713 in the Hebrew gematria cipher. And 713 has this prime factorization of 23 times 31. 23 is the 9th prime, and 31 is the 11th prime. For back to our 9/11 symbolism with Saturn. So one of the origins of the 9/11 is through the mathematical prime factorization of the Hebrew gematria of Saturn. If we type sun, or if we type Shamash, you get the same Hebrew word here. Oops, wrong cipher. In the Hebrew ordinal, Shamash, or sun, sums to 55. And I'm going to be talking about the leap year day here with the coronavirus in a minute. So I'm going to show you the 55 here. How that's relevant to leap day. So on January 5th, 2020, Saturn hit 292 on the ecliptic, 292 degrees on 1/5/2020. You can see here, right here, the ecliptic longitude on 1/5/2020 hit exactly 292. And the reason I'm showing you that in relation to the 55 is that 229, which would be written as 292 in most parts of the world, was 55 days after Saturn hit 292. So the leap day, 292, 55 days after Saturn. Shamash, also known as Saturn. And in mythology, Saturn was the sun. And we're going to come back to more Saturn symbolism here in a minute with the stellarium. This is the wheel of Shamash, the wheel of Saturn. Here's another German reference here. Of course, if you remember the movie Raiders of the Lost Ark, the Germans were trying to find the Ark of the Covenant. And in order to locate the Ark of the Covenant, Indiana Jones has to use the Staff of Ra. And the sun shines through the staff, and it locates the Well of Souls, the location of the Ark. You can see here in this scene that they're digging at the location of the Ark. And they have Indiana Jones here with the silhouette and the sun. And this is the final scene in the movie THX 1138. This was George Lucas's first movie. It's a very significant final scene, and I'll show you why they named the movie THX 1138. The final scene with the man in the sun. If we go back to our Hebrew and our Greek gematria values of crown, 90 plus 1048, sums to 1138. They often like mixing the Greek and the Hebrew, like in Revelation 9:11. They're referencing the name of the angel of the bottomless pit in both the Hebrew and the Greek. And you have the Star of David, which represents Saturn, the six-pointed star. Sarah is the prefix, the Hebrew prefix for six. And we have the Venus pentagram, which is associated with this as well. The Venus pentagram. Pent is Greek for five. The 6 and the 5, the Serapenta, the serpent. It all goes together, the symbolism through the math, through the planets. But THX 1138, using the combined gematria of crown for the Greek and the Hebrew. Okay, here's where we get more to the coronavirus ritual. And our current news here, the coronavirus is the most talked about and the biggest thing going on in the world right now. But if we look at the distance from the Sun to Saturn, it's 888 million miles. It's not the exact distance that's used all the time, but it's one of the most common uses of the 888 million miles for a distance from Saturn to the Sun. But I'll show you why they are using the 888. I talked about this before, but the largest solar flare ever recorded. And a solar flare is also known as a CME, or coronal mass ejection. But the largest solar flare ever recorded was on 4/2/2001. The biggest solar flare on record, 4:51 p.m., April 2nd, 2001. What's also interesting is that the number 451 is the combination of the 9th and 11th tetrahedral numbers. I've covered that before as well. But 451, the 9th and 11th tetrahedral numbers when you sum them together. But solar ejections are often associated with flares and sometimes occur shortly after the flare explosion. Coronal mass ejections are clouds of electrified magnetic gas weighing billions of tons. Anyways, here just showing you the April 2nd, 2001 date. But our largest solar flare ever recorded, April 2nd, 2001, to the first U.S. coronavirus death on Leap Day, 2/29/2020. That was 6,907 days. The 888th prime. $69.07. The 888th prime. The Sun to Saturn distance, 888 million miles. And this first death was in Seattle, and I'll show you why they told us it was in Seattle. So this is also reported on Leap Day, 2/29/2020. Pope Francis cancels the third day of events amid mysterious illness. So there's speculation that the Pope may have coronavirus. And his absence, the longest sick leave of his papacy, comes as coronavirus sweeps Italy. The country has reported 888 cases and at least 21 deaths, according to the latest numbers. So 888 deaths on leap day. 6907 days after the largest coronal mass ejection, the 888th prime. Saturn, 888 million miles. And I'll show you why it's his third day. They're telling us it's his third day. Saturn is in the third position on the Tree of Light. On the Kabbalistic Tree of Life, Saturn is in position number 3. And remember, I showed you guys in my last video the triangle, the geometrical correspondence to Saturn, or Binah, is the triangle. I just showed you guys the triangle here with the 3313, how it relates to the ox. This is the symbol of a sun cross. But if you just rotate the sun cross a little bit, it becomes the O and the X, the ox. In orbital gematria, ox sums to 39. Italy, with our 888 cases of coronavirus on leap day, Italy has the calling code of 39. So we have our first coronavirus death on leap day, and it was in Seattle. And if we go back here and look at Seattle, the city itself is hilly, though not uniformly so. Like Rome, the city is said to lie on 7 hills. The list varies, but typically include Capitol Hill. So there's a Capitol Hill in Seattle. And if we look at Capitoline Hill in Italy, the hill was earlier known as Mons Saturnius. This is the 7 hills of Rome, and we have the 7 hills in Seattle with our first coronavirus death. Capitoline Hill. At the foot of Capitoline Hill is located the Temple of Saturn. This area is Capitoline Hill in Rome. The Temple of Saturn is located at the foot, at the base of Capitoline Hill in Saturn, in Rome. And I've also showed you guys Capitol Hill here, but obviously Capitol Hill, the location in Washington, D.C., the reason they're calling it Capitol Hill, it's just a reference to Saturn. They love using the mythology of Saturn in all their rituals. They're always referencing the golden age of Saturn. But if you remember here, I was talking about Saturn and the Sun, and this is from a past video I did, but this is from the Georgia Guidestones, from 3/22/1980 to 12/31/2019. If you exclude Saturn Day and Sunday from this calculation, it's 10,377 total days. And remember the origin of the 1377. Is the gematria value of Revelation 8:11 is 1377. Now 1377 is related to Saturn as well. the base 10, base 12 relationship between the 1377 and base 12, it is 969. And I covered this before. I've already documented this once, but on October 12th, 2017, October 12th, 2017, that was the day that NASA changed the orbital speed of Saturn from 9.69 kilometers per second to 9.68. If I can find it here. So on October 12, 2017, the orbital speed of Saturn was changed from 9.69 to 9.68. So 12/31/2019 was the 811th day. Just like it was the 10,377th total day after the guide stones were completed, if we exclude the Saturn days and the Sun days. And Italy, of course, was big in the news today. Even though the coronavirus is a hoax, it's a very useful hoax because they can use the pandemic. There's very real-world consequences. Even though this is all just a Saturn and Sun ritual, the real-world consequences are that they can lock down cities and use the excuse as the pandemic to do all kinds of things in this situation. But Italy is in lockdown today on March 9th. And in Italy, of course, March 9th would be written as 9-3. Saturn sums to 93. So I'm going to show you one more ritual here with Saturn. Okay, during the Golden Age, Saturn's reign was the Earth's fixed celestial polar sun. So Saturn was a fixed point in the sky, and I want to show you another ritual here to Saturn in the 3313. Let me get this set up here. So we're centered here on Saturn. And I'm going to start on 2/1, February 1st, 2014, but I'm going to show you what's going on here. I have to give you guys a good visual example here. So starting February 14th, or February 1st, 2014, we're going to watch Saturn here. You can see Saturn reversed its course in the sky. We're going to back this up and I'll show you exactly the point here where Saturn comes to a standstill before it goes into retrograde motion. Saturn officially went into retrograde motion on the 2nd, but on the 1st, Saturn symbolically was standing still in the sky just before it reversed course on 3/1/2014. And on March 1st, 2014, this was the initial report from the Kunming, China knife attack. 33 dead, 130 injured. There's our 3313 on March 1st. And it was another knife attack. Saturn is the two-edged sword. In Revelation 1, we're going to go over this again in the future here, but Revelation 1 references the two-edged sword. If you're familiar with the Avengers movie franchise, Thanos represents death, and he carries the two-bladed sword, the two-sided sword. I'm going to go more into the symbolism here about Thanos, but he carries the two-edged sword. He's representing Saturn. But just another ritual here. The day that Saturn was standing still in the sky. Just before it went retrograde, we had the knife attack in China, the 3313, which goes back to our mythology of Saturn. The fixed celestial sun in the Golden Age. And I'm going to come back and reference this video in the future. There's a lot of dates here that I want to show you guys that connect to other stuff that I'm looking at. Also, today, March 9th, is the super worm moon. We have the super worm moon. We have Italy on lockdown. The stock market also went down, I believe, over 2,000 points today. And I'll show you something here with that too. Bobby Simpson sent this over to me, but if we look at Black Thursday on October 24th, 1929, to today's date, 3/9/2020, it's 33,009 days. And remember, I showed you guys that the 339th verse of Revelation is Revelation 19:19. Our SS, our 55, our 19:19. So that means coming up here on the 13th, 3/13 is Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th will be 33,013 days after Black Thursday. Type our ox as 39, the prime factorization of ox, or 39 is 3 times 13. So yes, the coronavirus is just a Saturn and Sun ritual, but of course has real-world consequences to the people that don't know what's really going on with all these Saturn and Sun rituals. And the next video is going to be about Venus. Saturn and Venus are very closely linked. Just as they were back in the Golden Age. Okay guys, thanks for watching.